Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Early Edge. It is a big day at the brand, and we've got an unbelievable cast today. But before we get to them, let's take a look at the recap screen and see how we did. We were coming off a 3-1 day, and we matched that with a 5-0 day, 8 of our last 9. Really good stuff. As usual, Buckets has been on fire. A-Mag's 2 for 2. And don't forget, he gave you that strikeout round robin. We saw in the Discord, a lot of people were hitting plus 2,000s, 25 to 1s on those round robins and those strikeout props. So really good to see that. And the SportsLine picks dominate as well. We've got such an incredible show. We've got so many picks for tonight, for today, for this weekend. So we got to get right to it. Let's go ahead and bring in the stars of the show, which of course includes you in the chat. Darren Mercurio, Brad Morris, Zoom is in here, Rick Funcannon, Matt is in here, Matt Snyder is in here, Mike McClure, PropStarz, Larry Hartstein. I don't know where to start here. Mike, you and I have a show later on today, Fantasy Football Today, DFS. Make sure, everyone, you watch that. Larry, I'm going to start with you. There's so much, now that it's football season, especially later in the week, and it's Thursday night football, my team is playing. There's a lot going on here.
There's a lot going on. We have a great matchup tonight with the Packers and the Commanders, and I know a lot of people are leaning towards the Commanders. Getting 3.5 seems so tempting. The Packers could be without 2 starting offensive linemen, but a little bit later on in the show, I'm going to inject a note of caution into that play.
Very interesting. I do think the 3.5, Mike, when that line opened at 3.5, I was like, oh, that's a little disrespectful. Are we like too much in on the Packers? Now, I don't have an official play on this side here, but I want to ask you, did the 3.5 surprise you? Because it's now 3, but 3.5 in some places still.
It surprised me the other way, actually. I was expecting 4.5s for Green Bay in this particular spot. So it is a short week. I'm very concerned with Green Bay's injury situation overall. But yeah, I want no part of betting this game personally. I'm even though I make it 4.5, I'm not willing to buy in on it. Mm-hmm. I don't want to fade Jaden Daniels in this spot. And again, short week with injuries is really difficult to forecast here because the Green Bay ones are pretty significant.
We're going to be answering all of your Thursday night football questions, whether they be prop or game related, whatever the case may be. Put them in the chat. We are going to get to them. PropStarz, real quick. If you're getting, let's say, +3 on Washington, most people would have gotten this at +3.5, but let's say it's +3. Knowing that there are injuries on the Packers side, on the offensive line, in the defensive backfield, does that sway you one way or the other, or you kind of stay away from this one as well? Because it sounds like Larry and Mike are kind of in the stay away category.
If I had to lean one way, it'd be with the Commanders. I was extremely impressed with the week 1 performance, the offense, the pass protection, just the running game as well. Jaden Daniels does not look ready for a sophomore slump here. So building on the success of last year, I think the Commanders are a legitimate 10 to 13 win football team. So I think they're a very, very talented team.
Sniper, we're going to have first touchdown plays later on in the show. You're going to be included in that. I know you have a baseball play that we're going to get to in a few minutes, but you watch football. You don't cap it necessarily. You watch it. What do you think in this game?
I think the Commanders are going to truck them, and I think the Packers suck.
Says a Bears fan. Yeah, absolutely.
I've got the best I could do on Commanders colors here today.
Hey, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I wore yellow for the sun because anytime the Commanders are getting the attention that they are, it's just going to be a sunny day for me. Let's get to some picks. Again, put your questions in the chat, whether they be baseball related, golf related, because we've got a PGA tournament. Hopefully you watched the early wedge. I'm going to give out a matchup actually after PropStarz goes, and it starts in like a half an hour. So if you're watching live, you're going to get it. It's only at one outfit. It's under the 3-ball matchups category over at DK. Not a lot of options across the sports books for the Pro Core. I'm going to give that out, PropStarz. After you give out, you've got a lot of plays here. Talk to me about the 2 plays you have for tonight. Now, one you already gave out, so you can kind of just mention it and move along. But talk to me about Matthew Golden and talk to me about Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt.
Yeah, I've got a prop on both sides of this game tonight, starting with Matthew Golden, the rookie drafted by Green Bay here. I'm going to go under 18.5 yards on his longest reception. We're seeing why I was really he was one of my favorite fade candidates as far as the season-long prop market is concerned. I know it's just week 1, but not very encouraged by a 9% target share and running less than 60% routes on Jordan Love dropbacks. It's just a crowded wide receiver room, and I don't think Matthew Golden is polished by NFL standards yet. He struggled against man coverage at Texas. That typically involves a high learning curve adjusting to the NFL. So I think it's going to be a struggle for him. I think the targets are going to be inconsistent, and I don't think they're going to be down the field. So I'm going to go under 18.5 yards on his longest reception, a prop I already gave out. And then on the other side of things, there is a very talented 7th round pick named Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, also known as Bill, who made Brian Robinson expendable in this Commanders backfield. I love him. I love him going over 40.5 rushing yards. He just has been phenomenal since stepping foot on the Commanders. Dan Quinn has just been heaping constant praise on him, both the way he practiced, and then we saw it show up in the preseason, and then it carried over to week 1, where he had 3 explosive runs, 1 for 42 yards, 3 runs for 10 plus yards. He was extremely impressive in that Commanders backfield. And this is an improved offensive line. You obviously had a left tackle, the quality of Laramie Tunsil, and then just the Jaden Daniels effect, being a running back in this system with a mobile quarterback like Jaden Daniels, who's as brilliant as he is, just is going to just provide a lot of positive running lanes and situations for Bill, who I absolutely love. And again, if we look at the running back depth chart here, Austin Eckler at this stage of his career is just more of a third down back, a pass catching back. I really think that Bill is going to get the majority of that early down work on what is an explosive offense that's going to run the ball extremely effectively. I think before long, he is going to be the feature back, and he made Brian Robinson expendable in that backfield as well. So I love his chances of going over 40.5 rushing yards tonight.
All right, we're going over 40.5 rushing yards for Bill, otherwise known as Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. Larry Hartstein, talk to me. You have a follow-up on Matthew Golden.
Well, you know, me and Proppy have a season-long bet on Matthew Golden, and he definitely wins round 1 on under 725.5 for the season, getting 2 for 16. But this is a guy who can get us 1 catch. He can get me back in business. So I will be watching that and actually actively rooting against your prop, unfortunately.
You know, what's so interesting about the Washington secondary is they made a lot of upgrades. You could call Lattimore an upgrade because maybe he had a hamstring injury the entire year last year. Obviously, Trey Amos. I think it's going to be really interesting. I would give the edge to the Packers in the passing game for sure, but I do think, to your point, PropStarz, with respect to Bill, otherwise known as Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, this offensive line is very much upgraded with what they did in the offseason. So that's a feather in their cap there. But I think there's so many different matchups that are very interesting, including Washington's secondary against the plethora of receivers that Green Bay has. Because now that Jaden Reed is healthy, you got Tucker Kraft, you mentioned Matthew Golden, Dontavian Wicks, Romeo Doubs, even Luke Musgrave might get in the mix. I mean, there's a lot of pass catchers. We didn't even mention the running backs there. It's going to be really interesting to see how Washington matches up there. Okay, before you give out your next 2 props. In fact, Proppy, we're going to circle back to your other 2 because I want to get some other people involved, but I also want to give out my golf play because it starts soon. It's over on DK and it's under 3-ball matchups, not under 18-hole matchups, not under round 3 balls, under 3-ball matchups. So you click on matchups and you look down, you look at 3-ball matchups, you click on that. One of the first guys to go out is Matt Kuchar. I'm taking him -125 over Mackenzie Hughes. I talked about this on the early wedge. Reminder, we're doing the early wedge anytime we have a fall swing event. You can still go back and watch it because this tournament hasn't started yet. You can go back and check out our picks and see if you want to dabble in some first-round leaders or some outrights or some tournament matchups. But for now, I'm just giving out Matt Kuchar -125 over Mackenzie Hughes. Both these guys have really good history at the Procore. Procore used to be called the Fortinet, by the way. But Matt Kuchar's got better history, and he's got better form coming in, and I do think he's a better course fit in spite of the fact that Hughes' short game should really pay off here. But Mackenzie Hughes' ball striking has been really bad for like 2 or 3 months, and Matt Kuchar's been pretty decent. And again, I like his history here, so I'm taking Matt Kuchar -125 over Mackenzie Hughes, and I've got a football play for later that I put on SportsLine yesterday afternoon. I'm going to give that out. We're going to be answering a lot of football questions, more football to come, of course. But let's transition real quick. Now that I got the golf pick out there, Sniper, talk to me about the Blue Jays tonight or today.
Yes, today. It is a day game in Toronto. I'm going to go with the Blue Jays in the first 5. Have that for you, Sia, here. We're both looking for the Commanders tonight. Now I'm going with the first 5. I'm going to have the Blue Jays for a lead. So it's the -0.5 run through the first 5 gets us down close to even money. The Blue Jays offense has been relatively quiet since Friday, and you can't keep a good offense down for long. As I told my friend in the chat, Liddy, earlier in the week, and now the Dodgers offense has blown up. Looking for a little bit something similar here from the Blue Jays, especially with Christian Javier on the mound for the Astros. He's come back from Tommy John surgery. He just has not looked very good. He's walking too many guys. He's generally getting hit a little bit. I think the Blue Jays can make him pay here in this one as they bounce back. So I like the Blue Jays offense in this one. And then on the other side, the Astros offense still is not very trustworthy. They haven't been good for quite a while. And Kevin Gausman on the mound for the Jays has a 2.48 ERA in his last 6 starts. So he's going really, really well right now. I like the Blue Jays probably to win the game, but I like it a lot better in the first 5, and we don't have to worry about a bullpen meltdown because the Blue Jays are one of many teams having problems with those recently. And I know our buddy Jeff will point out in the chat the Yankees are also one of those teams having bullpen meltdowns.
All right. You know who's not having a meltdown, Sniper, is Amags. Maybe his Yankees are having meltdowns, but Amags is in the chat. He says, everyone, thanks y'all. I appreciate the love. And he says, check out the SportsLine website. And I'm sure the SportsLine Discord where he will be later for his pick. Again, if you want to be a member of SportsLine, it's incredibly easy. And there's so much info. It's not just picks. There's so much information on there. There's access to the SportsLine Discord. You just go to sportsline.com/join. You type in the promo code winners, you get 60% off the annual plan. And once you are a SportsLine member, you can just click on discord.gg/SportsLine. It takes you right to the Discord where we have an expert channel for every single sport. We got to go ahead. Yeah.
Because today at 3:00, prop bet guy who's off to an amazing start in NFL, he'll do his chat at 3 p.m. And then, of course, we have Amags doing the MLB chat, Tom Casale, the CFB chat on Saturday, RJ White, the NFL chat Sunday morning, and then PropStarz doing the Monday prop chat. And then we're also going to bring some new faces into that Discord for some expert chats. Stay tuned.
That's awesome. And you know what's crazy about that, Larry, is that those are just the scheduled ones, because all of these guys and girls are in the Discord just casually being in there, hours at a time, whether it be Tom Casale or RJ White or Jeff Hockman. There's so many Amags that are in there just kind of peeking in and just talking and giving out picks like at random times of the day. Amags chiming in here. Lots going on in the Discord. Got to be in there for all the extra info. All right, let's get to the home run chart because I don't want to forget to do that because we've got a lot of football coming. Ben, pop that up. Junior Caminero plus 220 versus plus 340. Riley Green plus 330 versus plus 425. And Cal Raleigh plus 236 versus plus 325. Sniper, your response.
Man, Riley Green, Tiger's looking really, really good right now. He's that lefty in Yankee Stadium, so that immediately jumps out at me. Obviously, Cal Raleigh is always a decent play. Junior Caminero, by the way, fun fact on Junior Caminero, the only players that have gotten to 40 home runs and 100 RBI before their 22nd birthday are Mel Ott, Eddie Matthews, Junior Caminero, and Ronald Acuna Jr., and that's it in Major League history.
Wow. Very, very interesting stat there. Mike, we got to get to your college football pick. We got way more NFL to go, including answering all your Thursday night football questions. I do want to tell everybody, BetMGM players will receive a prop football no sweat token. You'll receive bonus bets back if the bet that was made with the token loses again. This is a classic BetMGM Pro Football no sweat token. Get your stake back in bonus bets. Ladies and gentlemen, now that we've covered a little bit of baseball, we'll answer your baseball questions on this show too. We got to take a quick break and hear a message from our partners. And then we're going to circle back and talk a lot more football right now.
You can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus. So even if you can't count on accurate expiration dates,
that is a rookie mistake,
or people appreciating your fashion sense,
Jim, the crowd is not on board here.
you can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS, streaming on Paramount Plus.
Glad we wear our good jerseys.
Yeah. We're back on the Early Edge, brought to you by BetMGM, the sportsbook born in Vegas. And it was Paul in the chat who says, we got to get an Early Edge t-shirt that says very, very interesting, which I do say probably too much. It's right up there, Larry, with for the record and by the way, right?
And fair enough.
And fair enough. See, there's only so many like transitional like taglines I can incorporate. If you have some to give me so that I don't just say very, very interesting as I'm transitioning, please let me know, because I clearly need some help here. I need some help with more picks. Mike McClure, talk to me about a team that you've talked about quite a bit over the last couple of years, and maybe now is a chance to take them while their stock is down.
It's the ultimate buy low spot, Sia. Talking about Kansas State, -1 is now the price point. I played it on the money line, -115 here. It's a road game against Arizona. Now, this is not a conference game. They're in the same conference, but because of all the conference realignment, this was scheduled all the way back in 2016 and is ending that series. So this is played as a non-conference game. When I look at this spot, though, I really want to buy low on just the difference in the market here. What we've seen as far as where these two teams were priced a week ago, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, this line, in my opinion, has moved far too much. I still make Kansas State a -3 road favorite. We're talking about a team that was a touchdown favorite preseason. Now, when we look at these matchups, what Kansas State had been able to do against Arizona was run the football with effectiveness, not only with the running backs, but with Avery Johnson. Avery Johnson is super talented with his legs. He torched this team last season, and that was with Tet McMillan on the other side going for 130 receiving yards. I think this is a good get right spot for Kansas State. I know that everyone is burned by them. I know we had a couple people backing them last week. They lost outright at home as 17.5-point favorites. I personally was not on them last week, was very interested in them early in the season against Iowa State. I like them here, though. Sometimes when you have a bad home loss like that, taking the road trip isn't necessarily a bad thing, but there's still time to salvage the season, particularly with this being a non-conference game still. I like Kansas State to get the job done on the money line here.
I mean, I like the idea of taking the stock while it's low. There's guys like Rick Funcannon, who says that basically Kansas State is dead to him. I mean, that's sort of the point you're making, right? Is that's the sentiment, and that's going to be where the money is on that stock being low and maybe taking the other team here. So that's part of the reason we're looking at Kansas State this week in particular, right?
Yeah, Kansas State this week in particular. Again, it's just the line is essentially moved a full touchdown, all on the merit of one team's performance, not the other team, the opponent's performance, right? So for me, just ultimate buy low spot. If they lose this one, that you're going to see a mass exodus. You're going to see people leaving the team during the middle of the season. You're talking about a team that was the favorite to win the Big 12 coming into the season. I still will buy in this particular spot. Again, you had a weird start to the season where you take the trip, play a game that's raining the entire game in Ireland. You play a team like Army, who you do have to prepare for. It's a very different style of football that they play. I think it's a really good buy low spot because of how much adjustment's been made.
Okay. Larry, let's move along because we've got more. We've got two more from Proppy. We've got 2 picks from you. We've got my pick for Thursday Night Football. Talk to me about Trevor Lawrence and the Houston Texans.
Yeah, a couple of picks for the weekend slate. Trevor Lawrence over 21.5 completions was a bet I loved last week. It didn't come through. I mean, he started off amazing, 14 of 19. There was a long weather delay. And most importantly, the Carolina Panthers couldn't mount anything. There was no threat of them coming back. Well, this is going to be a different story at Cincinnati. They're projected as 3.5-point dogs right now, so projected to be trailing. I'm projecting a totally different game script. You have Joe Flacco that just completed 31 passes against the Bengals, and Trevor Lawrence, to me, looked very, very good in that first half before he got out of rhythm with the weather delay, and then they didn't need to throw the ball. So over 21.5, a bet I will go back to, even though it burned me. And then on Monday Night Football, the Houston Texans, they look terrible on offense. But remember who they were playing, a very good Rams defense on the road. They had the ball inside the 20 with a chance to win under 2 minutes left, and they fumble the ball. Now they're taking on, to me, one of the flukiest winners of week 1, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Baker Mayfield was not good without Tristan Wirfs, without Chris Godwin. He tried to throw 4 interceptions. The Falcons dropped them, and the Texans will not drop them. He had 2 big-time throws, and he had 4 turnover-worthy plays. I think he's great. I think he's going to have a good year, but he doesn't have all his pieces right now. I love this Texans defense at home. Would love it if Christian Kirk comes back for this Texans offense, but even if he doesn't, Nico Collins is going to explode against this Bucs secondary.
Yeah, very, very interesting there because the Texans are in a very good bounce back spot. I did that very interesting on purpose. Big Cheesy says, love the Texans this week. I do love that Texans defense. Larry, my goat, says buckets. Thank you, Buckets, so much for being in here. PropStarz, we got 2 more props from you to finish, and one of them is related to Trevor Lawrence.
Indeed, yeah. And again, Larry's going back to the well with Trevor Lawrence. I'm going back to the well with Brian Thomas Jr., who had a very disappointing week 1 performance. And as a result, we're getting a significant discount on his receiving line. Just 66 receiving yards, completely disrespectful to who I believe is one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. I think you can throw week 1 performance out the window. As Larry mentioned, the big weather delay in the middle of the game, and then the Panthers not mounting much resistance just provided a very weird game script, which will not be the case, or likely not to be the case against the Bengals, where the Bengals are favored. We know how good this Bengals offense is. Major question marks on this Bengals defense. So this is going to be a very good environment to get a cheap piece in. And shockingly, Brian Thomas Jr. is significantly lower than basically where he was at after week 4 last year. So this is a great buy low spot for Brian Thomas Jr., who's likely to receive 10 to 12 or plus more targets in this game down the field. I think he's going to have a massive game. I'll also be hammering his alt lines here. I like his potential to go for triple digits here. So love Brian Thomas Jr. in a bounce back spot in week 2 against the Bengals. And then I'm trying to talk about a rookie who's been very unimpressive. I'm talking about Ashton Genty. Has not looked very good in the preseason. 3.1 yards per carry. That carried over to week 1, where he had 19 carries for just 38 yards, I believe. And he had his longest run was 9 yards. So that left an additional 18 carries for 28 yards. He just does not look explosive when it looks as far as his lateral quickness and the sideline to sideline burst is concerned. So I think there's some major question marks, and it's time to ring the alarms. He has a little bit of Trent Richardson as far as I'm concerned, but looks to me. So yeah, Ashton Genty, while he's going to get a lot of work, I'm just not seeing it right now, whether it's the learning curve of the NFL, getting up to the NFL speed, whatever it may be, having impatience, not allowing blocks to develop. Just not seeing it with him right now. So facing a Chargers defense that looked good against the Chiefs in Brazil. I was impressed with the run defense as well. So I just think 70 yards is a big number for Ashton Genty. I'd make this around 62.5. And honestly, I think that's being generous. So this looks like a really strong fade to me, as because of his draft capital and because of the hype of him as a prospect. It's still more name than game right now than what we've seen in the preseason and what we saw week 1. So I'm going to fade Ashton Genty under 70.5 rushing yards. I think this one should close around 64.5. So I jump on this quickly.
More name than game. You might have just said this, but you had his under last week too, and you have his season props under as well, right?
I don't for Genty. I didn't have his under last week, but I do think he, just I have not seen it, has not looked good, whether it be the preseason, haven't had great practice reports either. So I definitely think, as far as his draft capital, he's just a much better prospect than he is player right now.
Okay, we got a lot of questions, a lot of comments in the chat. Let me give out my play. Then we're going to get to some questions, and then we're going to get to our first touchdown plays as well. And Sniper, I know you're involved in this as well, which is fantastic. We'll probably have some MLB questions for you, Sniper, as well. If you're a member of SportsLine, you got this yesterday afternoon. The price has probably gone up over at BetMGM. I think last I checked, the minus 120 on over 20.5 completions for Jaden Daniels is now minus 135. I still think it's okay to take there, but you could just go to 21.5, where most books have had this since yesterday, really since the line opened. I think 21.5 is fine, especially if you're getting it at around minus 110, minus 114. I think it's in that range over at places like DK and FanDuel. But again, the best number was definitely at BetMGM. It's still there, over 20.5 completions. So I agree with Proppy that Washington might have not an easy time running the ball, but I think they're going to have some effectiveness running the ball. But I also think this is probably a neutral to negative game script for Washington. But even if it's a positive game script, we can't forget that Jaden Daniels against the Giants, when they completely throttled down and were throttling the team for most of the game, still had 19 completions. And when you get a team that has Micah Parsons on one side and Gary on the other side that can create pressure and play zone defense, what do? You get the ball out quick, which is a specialty of one JD5. So I think that's what we're going to see. A lot of easy completions under pressure, under duress, picking apart the zone with guys like Zach Ertz, Terry McLaurin, and of course, Deebo Samuel, Austin Eckler. I even think Noah Brown is going to get involved. I'll talk about that later because I know we had a question about Noah Brown, but I do think he sails over this 20.5. If you have it at 21.5, I'm okay there. I do think there might be some longer sustained drives than we expect, but I also think there's going to be big shot plays here by both teams. And I just think there's going to be enough of a back and forth where Jaden is going to have to throw the ball. 23 completions, very much in play, probably higher than that in my opinion. Give me the over 20.5. If you have it at 21.5, go ahead and take that as well. Any comments on Jaden Daniels here, crew, in terms of what you think he's going to do against this Packers defense before we get to questions?
He looked great in week one. He was, so composed. The one thing that I think is a troubling thing, not for your prop, but for the Commanders side, is the Giants actually didn't get a lot of pressure, but he still was sacked 3 times. Like his sack rate based on the pressure was more than you would expect. And if he runs around trying to extend plays a lot against Rashawn Gary and Micah Parsons and the other pass rushers, the Packers are going to get some negative plays.
Just to add, I think by the conclusion of the season, the Giants defense will be a very good defense. I just think they unfortunately faced a Commanders offense that looked exceptional to me, highly efficient. I was incredibly impressed with Jaden Daniels. I think they upgraded the offensive line. They added additional weapons. We saw that carry over in week one without Terry McClure really having a big impact in week one. So I just think there's still a lot of untapped upside, and I was just very impressed with the development of Jaden Daniels, who again had a brilliant rookie season, and I think the Commanders' offense is going to be elite all season long.
I see Rick Funcan in the chat. He says Love over 1.5 passing touchdowns. I assume he's talking about Jordan Love as opposed to loving something else. But do you guys have any thoughts on that? I kind of like Jaden over 1.5 touchdowns. I'm going to do an SGP that I'll put in the SportsLine Discord later and probably on Twitter too, if I'm being honest, that probably is going to incorporate Jaden with a couple of touchdown passes. I don't love it. I'm just willing to include it in an SGP as opposed to an official play. Proppy, go ahead.
Much prefer backing Jaden when it comes to touchdown passes. This Packers offense is extremely conservative. When they get out to a lead, they run the football. They also play very slow as well. So it's a run-first offense, whereas potentially Washington could be trailing in this game. They were very aggressive as well, pushing the ball down the field here. So, yeah, I'd be much more comfortable if we're looking and backing the quarterback as far as touchdown pass is concerned with Jaden.
Samuel Gallego says Noah Brown over 21 yards. I saw it at 22 in some places, 22.5. I think Noah Brown's getting slept on. I'm going to talk about him a little bit right before we sign off here. Noah Brown is the wide receiver 3 here. And the only reason we don't talk about him at all is because, well, first of all, he's Noah Brown and he's injured a lot and he's just not usually a big part of really any offense dating back to his days at Dallas. But he had a knee injury all preseason. He was included in the game plan last week, and Cliff Kingsbury praises this guy. I just feel like people don't really know that Noah Brown exists. And I think he could break a couple of big plays. We know Noah Brown after the catch. We know route running is all pretty solid there. And I think he's going to be included, especially if this is a neutral to negative game script. Proppy, go ahead.
I would add one more thing regarding Green Bay's defense, who obviously was very impressive week one. Part of that could have been the departure of Frank Ragnow and Ben Johnson from Detroit's offense. They looked out of sync, but Detroit was able to move the ball through the air. The Packers' run defense was very good, no questions there, but they were a little bit vulnerable on the back end, which I think Jaden Daniels can take advantage of. And again, when we're talking about a Jaden Daniels offense, just him, his threat, his dual threat capabilities just provides so many running lanes for Washington here. So I just think it's a completely different animal facing this Commanders offense, even compared to a very dynamic offense like Detroit, who has incredible running game and 2 tremendous backs. But Jaden Daniels under center right now might be the most dangerous quarterback in the NFL. That's
a really good comment. Is there a more dangerous quarterback right now under center is just redundant, I guess. But can you think of one in terms of his ability to extend plays, to run, And just to be a pinpoint passer, Larry, Mike, can you think of a quarterback? Am I missing somebody? Is it JD5?
I mean, I think he's right there with Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson.
Josh
frankly.
Allen,
Like,
Lamar
I just
Jackson.
think
Yeah,
they're
that's true.
Right there. But yeah, in the NFC for sure, there's nobody.
Okay, yeah, I probably should have thought that one through because, I mean, you can make an argument, but yeah, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and then we'll put JD5 third there in terms of just most dangerous. Let's keep going with some questions. We'll toggle between football and baseball. We'll be with you for another few minutes here. Sniper, do we keep riding the Phillies?
Yeah, as I mentioned in the chat, I thought about that one. I don't love it because the Phillies aren't as great against left-handed pitching. David Peterson on the mound for the Mets, and it just feels like kind of an even out game. The only thing I did look at in that game, though, I looked at under 6.5 strikeouts on Jesus Luzardo because the Mets are one of the higher contact teams in baseball. And they've seen him twice already, and he is prone to meltdowns. He's had a few meltdowns. He's great sometimes with like 12 strikeouts and 7 shutout innings, but also sometimes he gets completely knocked around the yard. So I looked at Jesus Luzardo under 6.5 in there. I could see wanting to go with the Phillies again. That one was a stay away for me.
Okay. Jeffrey Aguilar, we'll go back to football. Took both teams' totals. Green Bay over 21.5. Oh, I see what you're saying. That could have been written a little bit better, Jeff. Okay, so you took Green Bay over 21.5 points and Washington over 19.5 points at plus 120. Any thoughts, Mike? Do you have any thoughts on in terms of the score of this game? We know the total is it in the 48 range?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Your thoughts? I mean, that does seem a touch high.
The slightest of underleans, but not something I would want to lean into. Made it around 47. Yeah, I don't trust leaning into it because of what garbage time can look like with a guy like Jaden Daniels out there. I just, I know it's boring to say that, but I want no part of betting a side or total in this game. Like there's so much unknown and so much respect for Jaden Daniels in prime time. I think it's about right.
Larry, I think part of that unknown is Green Bay at home got to face Detroit without both their coordinators and like kind of a revamped offensive line. It could have just been a mulligan type situation for Detroit. And then you get Washington against the Giants. And I actually agree. I think the Giants defense is super solid, but I don't know how much we can take away from week one. What are your thoughts in terms of like, did one of those teams impress you more than the other week one?
I mean, the Giants defense played well. They gave up 21 points. They were on the field the entire game. Their offense couldn't, convert a first down. So to only give up 21 points when you're on the field the whole game was pretty impressive. I thought the Commanders' offense looked great. I thought Deebo Samuel, who I did not think was going to have a great year, and we'll see if he could stay healthy because it's always the issue with him. But he was the perfect chess piece for Cliff Kingsbury, and I see why they wanted him. I think he's a perfect complement to McClure. So, yeah, I was very impressed with the Washington offense. And then, the Packers also I'm very high on. I'm going to lean over in this one, but probably, right around the number.
PropStarz, John Romero wants to know, would you take the golden prop that you gave out at under 17.5 longest reception? Minus 114.
It's close. I'd probably scale down to a half unit at 17.5 yards. These can be tricky, these longest reception lines. I'm more counting on him just not seeing a lot of volume, and I just don't think his ability to draw targets right now. He's just not a very polished NFL receiver as far as what I've seen. So I'd probably stay away or just scale down a half a unit at 17.5 yards, though.
Okay. Before we get to the final questions, I do want to get the SportsLine picks in here and the first touchdown picks. So let's start with the SportsLine picks. Commanders plus 3.5. Okay, we have an official play. That's from RJ White. Again, Commanders plus 3.5 at minus 108. Jordan Love over 222.5 passing yards from Matt Severance. And Wake Forest, this is a carryover from earlier in the week. This is one of our SportsLine picks, and this game is tonight. Wake Forest plus 7.5. So a lot of picks for later on in the week on this show, and a lot of picks for tonight. Again, Wake Forest plus 7.5. Jordan Love over passing yards 222.5, and Commanders plus 3.5. Let's get to our first touchdown scores. Let's try to get back in the club here, folks. This is it. So we'll go around the horn here, and we'll have everybody give a line about who they like for the first touchdown. Mike McClure, you're starting with Jaden Daniels at plus 1,200.
Yeah, I think Jaden Daniels just is going to be the kind of player that's always going to elevate his individual play in a primetime spot. You look what he did last season as well. Got one primetime Monday Night Football game last season. had a rushing touchdown there, but he ran the football so much more early season last year. Multiple games in a row of double-digit rushing attempts, 4 touchdowns in the first 4 games, and then it trailed off to 4, 5, 6 rushes a game. I think we see a similar pattern early this season, so I want to be early on Jaden Daniels running the football.
All right, Sniper, I'm going to go to you next. But before you speak, I want to say 2 things. 1, I was actually going to have this as my pick. And 2, as I see you clutching your bat a la Daniel Alistair Caffey and a few good men, Achilles is reminding us that Calvin Wetzel was on the show yesterday and gave out 2 plays for tonight. So go back and listen to that show because one of them was on the Valkyries. Make sure you get those plays in if you haven't already because Calvin is super sharp. So we have more for the recap screen tomorrow. It's going to be crazy. Go ahead, Daniel Alistair Caffey.
Yes, with my bat, I think better, and I believe that Ertz is kind of hot on a touchdown run right now, and this is assuming that the Commanders get close, but not too close, something like the 3, 5, 6 yard line, and then Jaden Daniels' security blanket, Zach Ertz for the touchdown.
He's so good at, speaking of security blanket, at securing the ball on tough catches. He's just got amazing hands. Larry Hartstein, talk to me about Tucker Kraft. I think he could be in line if of all the pass catchers, he would be the one that I'd be more willing to like play in DFS, maybe consider as touchdown or yardage props. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, he led the team with 7 receiving touchdowns last year. He scored again in week 1. He's the fastest tight end in the NFL, and on a Packers team where it's so hard to know because, could be Wicks, could be Reed, could be Dobbs. I just like going with the tight end. The Giants targeted their tight ends 4 times against the Commanders. That doesn't sound like much, but when you look at who they have, Theo Johnson and Daniel Bellinger, I mean, Tucker Kraft is in a whole nother category. So give me Tucker Kraft 11-1.
PropStarz.
Let's go Terry McLaurin here at a great number. Terry McLaurin had 13 receiving touchdowns last season. That was second in the NFL to the great Jamar Chase. So Terry McLaurin, we're seeing what it looks like when he has a competent quarterback play. And he got off to a bad start week 1. By his standards, certainly Debo was more involved, but we saw the Packers play a staggering 91% of their defensive snaps were in zone 3 or cover 2 or cover 3. So they played a tremendous amount of zone defense. Debo struggled mightily against zone looks throughout his career and last season. Terry McLaurin is by far the Commanders' best option when it comes to facing zone coverages. He was one of the best wide receivers against cover 2 alignments in the NFL last year, if we look at yards per route run or even fantasy points per route as well. So I think Terry McLaurin getting a great price here, considering the touchdown upside that we saw last season. This should be priced significantly lower.
Terry's stat line last week was not very impressive, but what I will say is JD5, sorry for saying that, it's a shorter. Jaden Daniels missed him on a deep shot that Jaden Daniels doesn't usually miss. And I do think with all the Cliff Kingsbury tricks and misdirection and motion and everybody concentrating on Debo with perhaps a screen, I think we could see a fake wide receiver screen situation here and Terry going deep. So I think his props also definitely in play. Maybe not the receptions themselves. I kind of prefer the yardage or longest reception for Terry McLaurin. Noah Brown for me. Again, I told you this wide receiver 3 is just completely invisible. But what he is he's a big playmaker. He's a big guy that Jaden Daniels relies on to extend plays, to get a first down. And I think that could play in the end zone here too. I'll tell you, this is 45-1 in some places. 40-1 is just fine. I considered like a backup tight end situation with Luke Musgrave, which is also in that 45-1 range. But I'm going to go with Noah Brown. I like his over with yardage, and I like his potential first touchdown at 40 or 45-1. Ramo has a question regarding your Brian Thomas Jr. PropStarz. Now, you were on the yardage, which I like, and Mike and I are going to talk about BTJ on the FFT DFS show, which is going to be in your feed in about an hour, folks, because I think it's a good bounce back spot for him. But Ramo's question in particular is BTJ 5.5 receptions. Your thoughts?
Just more comfortable playing the yardage because of his upside, because he's able to take 40-plus yards on a single reception. So I would lean over on the reception as well. Plus money, certainly a good price. But I'm just more comfortable with the yardage because of the upside, because of his ability to draw targets down the field. So just more comfortable playing the yards.
All right. I'm looking for more Thursday Night Football questions, but I think most of them have been answered. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I would just say on Jacksonville stuff, Larry kind of mentioned it earlier. It was a very strange game when you had that mid-second quarter delay. Where the game was kind of in hand really already at that point. Jacksonville ran the football 32 times in that game. Not going to be normal unless they're winning. I do think that it's a very different team in Jacksonville this season, but I would expect a very different usage and distribution. It was just one of those situations with a weird delay, and the game was essentially over after a quarter.
And he still received 9 targets as well. So certainly it wasn't a complete failure as far as utilization. So I have a lot more confidence in Liam Cohen's ability to utilize Brian Thomas all over the place in that offense with Trevor Lawrence in an environment that's likely to be a shootout.
I wish the sentence you just used was even with Trevor Lawrence, because he's not good. I've been on this train since Clemson, but Liam Cohen, that type of offense can fix him to the extent of like getting him easy targets. But his catchable rate was if memory serves, was one of the bottom in week 1. But what I do also want to mention about week 1, when you're looking at stat lines, you have to look at the game flow too. There were so many games, and Mike just mentioned it, where teams like Washington, like Jacksonville, like Green Bay, we're just throttling down. And so some of the stats you're seeing for week 1 aren't really true stats because they weren't playing for 4 quarters in terms of like what the normal neutral script game plan would be. So always factor that in when you're looking at props and when you're looking at just game flow and everything. PropStarz, go ahead.
I think that's an excellent point. One thing that I look very closely anytime I'm breaking down games is pass rate over expected. It's exactly what you alluded to, Sia. Understanding what teams' tendencies are in neutral game scripts, because obviously things get skewed when you have a big lead and the opposing team's not offering much resistance, and things are going to be very imbalanced in those types of situations. So identifying team tendencies in neutral game environments is where you learn most about a team's tendencies.
All right. Danny Brasco was in the chat, by the way. He says, BTJ better come alive this week. Sounds like you've got him on your fantasy team. A-Mags is in the chat. I'm sure he's answering baseball questions. And Brad Morris is saying, this feels like an early wedge episode lengthwise. I'm so here for it. I will tell you, I don't know that they're all going to be this long because this is really long for a Thursday, but Mondays and Thursdays, listen, every show is great. Every show is going to have a ton of picks, but Mondays and Thursdays are going to really lean into your questions and giving out some more plays, some extra plays, first touchdowns, maybe some SGPs in the future as well. So come prepared with your questions because we're going to answer them. Sniper, let's close here before we get to the recap screen. Anything in the chat that you saw baseball-wise that maybe I passed over?
We discussed some stuff. It was quite a while ago, though. It's been football and wings versus pizza for a while, which was a very important discussion.
What's the answer? Let's go around the horn before we get to the recap screen. Sniper, you start.
I went wings, but I wouldn't complain about either.
Mike?
I'm not complaining about either.
But you have to pick one, Mike.
Okay. Buffalo chicken pizza.
Oh, good answer. That's on the pizza side. Sniper, did you actually give an answer? You have to give an actual answer.
Yeah, I said wings.
You said wings. Okay, wings. That's a vote for pizza, in my opinion, with Mike.
Yes,
Larry, go ahead.
I went off the board. Burgers, dogs, chili, and slaw.
You can't do that.
One or the other. I mean, that's great too.
The court will wait for an answer.
I just don't like the polls that we're getting.
This is terrible. PropStarz, wings or pizza?
I mean, I'm in the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania right now, and I'm going to a place called Lucatelli's as soon as this stream concludes to get a pizza. So yeah, I love wings, but it's definitely pizza. Shout out to Philadelphia cheesesteaks as well.
Brad Morris, MVP of the chat today. He says, leave it to M squared to arbitrage. That's such a perfect comment. Oh my gosh, I love it so much. By the way, the answer is, I think there was a tie situation. Larry, go ahead.
Well, but here's the question, Proppy. When we meet in AC for Monday Night Football for that doubleheader, what kind of food are we getting? You know, that is.
I was going to recommend that we go to Tony Baloney's in Atlantic City area. So
they are
like one of the most creative pizza places in the country.
Here's the thing. If you have a group, you can do both. You can get a pizza and a bunch of wings and you can have both.
No, we need to decide. We need to be down on
I
one.
I did say I was just saying it's possible if us five were together, we could do both.
Samuel Gallego says, would pay to see Proppy make a pizza. Pizza is the correct answer. So I think it was a tie. I'm going to break the tie. Yeah, Samuel Gallegos, Proppy, we need to do a cooking show with you and buckets would be absolutely epic. Pizza for me, and Joe Everett says Tony Baloney's is legend food. I thought it was a made-up name, and apparently it's not because we have confirmation from Mark. Let's get to our recap screen as I see Taft Gant is also in the chat. You'll see him on this show very soon. Chris Kish, Sia gets it. Both is not an option. Yeah, come on, guys. Jane Daniels over 20.5 completions, -120. And my Procore matchup, which already started, but if you were watching the show, you got it. Matt Kuchar, -125 over Mackenzie Hughes. Trevor Lawrence over 21.5 completions, says Larry Hartstein at -125. And the Houston Texans money line, -135. Blue Jays first 5, -0.5, says the Sniper, -115. That's a day game. Kansas State money line, -115 versus Arizona. That one is on Friday. Matthew Golden under 18.5 yards, longest reception, -110. And that, of course, is tonight. And then he's got Bill, Ja'Cory Crosky-Merritt, over 40.5 rushing yards at -110. A couple plays for the weekend. And you might see on the prop show tomorrow on CBS Sports Network at 1 o'clock, Brian Thomas Jr. over 66.5 receiving yards, and Ashton Genty under 70.5 rushing yards. Both of those at -115. Let's get to our SportsLine picks. Commanders, let's go. RJ White, +3.5 at -108. Jordan Love over 222.5 passing yards at -118. That one from Matt Severance. Wake Forest tonight, +7.5 at -118. That one courtesy of Josh Nagel. And then, okay, here we go. We got Calvin's plays. Thank you, Ben. Valkyries +9, -110. And Liberty Sky under 159.5, -110. Those were Calvin's plays on the early edge yesterday. I think we got even more, right? Home run props. Junior Caminero, Riley Green, and Cal Raleigh are the SportsLine model inside the lines, top MLB home run plays. Those have been hitting all year to a crazy extent. And then don't forget, first touchdown scores, Noah Brown. You might be able to catch that at 45-1, but I'll take 40. Zach Ertz at 17-1. Tucker Kraft, 11-1. Scary Terry McLaurin, 13-1. And JD5, a.k.a. Jaden Daniels, is 12-1. That one from Mike McClure. What an incredible show. We went 46 minutes. Mike, we're almost late for FFT DFS. Everybody make sure you dial in around 1 o'clock, 1:30. You'll see it in the Fantasy Football Today YouTube channel. You'll see the actual show on YouTube, but you'll also have it in your podcast feed. A lot of the players that we just talked about for Sunday, we're going to talk about on FFT DFS. We're going to give you our cheat sheet, our top 3 at each position. It's going to be a main slate concentrated show. So make sure you are subscribed to Fantasy Football Today DFS. Have a great Thursday night football. I am very excited about it as a Commanders fan, and I'm very excited about all these plays and props. I'll be in the SportsLine Discord later. I'll probably be on Twitter later answering some questions, and I know this group will be as well. Samuel Gallegos says, heck of a show. Absolutely love it. Thanks everybody for being in here, including Danny and Taft and Amags. Really appreciate everybody hitting the like button as well. We'll see you next time on the Early Edge. We rest our case.